Jasmy has been going sideways for the last 8 or 9 days now, leaving many investors wondering what's going to happen next. Well, in today's video, I want to give you an update on what it's doing right now, because it does seem as if it's preparing for something pretty damn interesting. And so with that in mind, let's not waste any more time and let's get into the video. So looking at Jasmy here, what we can see is that, again, yes, its price has been going sideways for the most part, ranging in between 19 cents and upwards of 25 cents for the last 8 to 9 days. Now, in the process of it making this sideways move, a couple things have happened over the last few days. First and foremost, we saw that Jasmy lost the key level of support that was created by this double establishment here, creating this little support trend line. And what you can see is that we got away from it, right? We used it to work up, but as we came back down to it, the moment we lost it, I mean, we really capitulated to the downside. Now, yes, Jasmy did try to recapture that level, did try to work its way back above that level, but it ultimately failed, then getting rejected by this trend line, flipping this previous point of support into a point of resistance. Of course, we did get a bit of a pullback as well. We went for the clearing again. Jasmy tried to break it again, but failed to make that break, and then of course has now been rejected for a second time. Getting rejected 2 times off of a previous point of support gives a pure confirmation that this is now a point of resistance, and it is no longer, of course, a point of support, obviously. Now, at the same time that Jasmy's price has done that, we have then started to see the formation of what very easily could be a micro head and shoulders. Now, if you don't know, a head and shoulders pattern is generally pretty bearish. Of course, it looks something like this, in which you have a left shoulder, you have a head, and then you have a right shoulder. Now, of course, this is not going to be confirmed unless Jasmy does come back down and loses 19.8 or 0.0198 cents. So, not going to say it's for sure in that position, but this structure and what we're seeing right now is definitely very similar and looks very, very close to a head and shoulders pattern, okay? And so because of that, and considering the fact that we did just get rejected off of this previous point of support, flip that into resistance, and now we could very easily be building some head and shoulder structure, I definitely think that you need to be very careful with Jasmy right now. Obviously, I am pretty bullish on Jasmy, and I think that it will continue up higher. I think that 5 cents is programmed. I think that we will get to that point one day, but we're not at that point right now. The point in which we're at right now in the short term is that we could see Jasmy's price pull back, and we could see it pull back somewhat substantially, at least within the short term. In the midterm to the long term, I do think that Jasmy will continue upwards. I do believe it will probably 2x from where it is right now over the mid to long term. I definitely think that's possible. But in the short term, my anticipation here is that if Jasmy's price at any given point does come back down to lose that 1 cent and 98, however you want to call it, let's just call it 0.0198, the breakout target to the downside would then be roughly about 0.014 or right under 1.5 cents. And if I do just kind of draw that out, it looks like you coming back down to retest this previous point of support here. The way we determined that breakout target was by taking the distance from the head all the way down to the neckline. That generally will give you the breakout target or the length of the move to the downside that you can expect if this key level of support is lost, okay? And that does align very well with some of the Fibonacci's in which we have kind of been seeing in play recently. If we do go ahead and draw on our swing low up to our swing high, you can see that that does perfectly position the breakout target right here. Let me just kind of get rid of this. Let me get rid of this for now. What you can see is that if we were to make that move to the downside towards that 0.0144 level, that does position us perfectly to be revisiting the bottom side, the 618 to 786 bucks of this swing low to swing high macro move, right? And so because of that, obviously, that is another thing that says, oh shit, this is aligning up very well. You got the breakout to the downside of that support. You got the head and shoulders pattern. The breakout target of the head and shoulders pattern is perfectly aligned with a very important level of support. It definitely tells me that there's a risk, at least for the short term right now for Jasmy. So the way in which I'm personally going about it is actually I'm not doing too much right now. There's a couple ways you can play it. Let me tell you both ways you can play it. Way number one that you can play it is actually to be doing a little bit of dollar cost averaging right now. Now, if you look at HG Algo on the hourly charts, remember HG Algo is the indicator my company designed that I do all of my investing based off of. What you can see here is that HG Algo is given 2 flashes, 2 dollar cost average in flashes, one roughly right here and one roughly right here. So HG Algo is saying that as we're getting to this key level of support, it's a good time to just add slowly to that position. HG Algo doesn't give you a pure buy signal in the sense that it's not going to tell you exactly when to buy and when to sell. It's going to tell you when it's a good time to dollar cost average into your position in a macro position or dollar cost average out or take profit out, right? And so because of the fact that we are getting overextensions every time we hit this key point of support, it tells me that this could be a decent time to be dollar cost averaging or buying just a little bit as we are approaching this key level of support here in anticipation of the fact that this support could hold and we could see Jasmy continue upwards. That is a possibility. It's just not the most likely possibility here. And realistically, I mean, HG Algo has a strong ability, to get these things correct. I mean, you can can see back here, whenever it was calling these purchases right here, when it was calling this purchase right here, when it called this purchase right here, called this purchase here, all of these purchases throughout this little move, right? And so from a macro perspective, yeah, even if Jasmy's price does pull back a little bit, these still can serve as very beautiful buying opportunities where we are right now, but there's a catch. What I would say is that if you are going to be buying right now, and if you are going to be taking that risk of DCAing right now, what I would do is actually set a stop loss on that. I would say if you're going to be buying right now, I would be setting a stop loss right around this 19.25 level. Let's just go ahead and call it right here, okay? And the reason being is that if we lose this 19.25 level, the likelihood of us continuing down further towards that 17 to 14 level is very high, right? Very high, or 0.017 or 0.014, 17, 14, whatever you want to call it. Us heading down to that level becomes very high. And obviously, if you were making purchases right here, those could become negative and you could likely rebuy in at some lower prices. I don't usually play that game, right? But whenever I have a head and shoulders pattern, I usually will play that game of setting stop losses below the head and shoulders pattern because it does usually enact on that move to the downside, right? The other way in which you could play it is quite simply just waiting, okay? That's always a great opportunity. There's always a great option, right? Just sitting back and just kind of seeing what happens, is watching what happens. And what I would say is that if we're capable of seeing Jasmy's price clear to the upside over 235, 2 cents 35, I think that puts it in a position in which it could continue upwards and start to really invalidate this head and shoulders pattern. And I think that that would be a decent time to be looking to add to a bag before hopefully looking for a continuation to the upside. But obviously that is rather risky, okay? And so one way or another, I mean, I definitely, again, think that the most likely scenario here based off of structure is that Jasmy gets this little break to the downside. But obviously we're in a bull market, right? Things go up a lot in bull markets, kind of against the odds. And so I'm not going to for sure say that it's going to go down. I'm just warning you right now that there are certain things happening that say that it definitely could, and it's something you need to at least be ready and prepared for so it doesn't catch you off guard. So with that in mind, of course, I hope you guys do enjoy these little quick Jasmy updates. Watch this very closely. If we can see this thing break 235, yeah, I think we're probably I think we're good. I think we'll have invalidated this head and shoulders pattern, and we could be okay for looking for continuation to the upside. But until then, you have to watch extremely closely what happens at this 0.01925 level, because if we lose it, looking for a pretty substantial move to the downside. But obviously that does open up doors of opportunity to be, averaging in, to buy some more, things of that nature. Do remember, I do all of my personal investing at this point based off of HD Algo. The link is in the description below. You can get 20% off right now. And as you can see, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You can see how well it's done. And had you been buying throughout these moves, you would be up substantially by now. So check that out down below. It does a lot of the work for you. So with that in mind, of course, I wanted to just give you a quick Jasmy update. Of course, again, I hope you did enjoy, and I will see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.